Around the Block with Cody Diesbourg and Brigitte Pellerin.
Hey everyone, welcome to our podcast. This is the second part of our two-part conversation about who karate is for. You can find the first part on our iTunes feed. That's from last week. Look for Around the Block there inside of iTunes. You can also find it on my website. That's brigittepellerin.com/podcast. Now, if you like what we do, we encourage you please to leave a nice review, either in Google Play or in iTunes or everywhere you get this podcast. You can also please do share this podcast with your friends on your social networks. That also helps us a great deal in finding new listeners. And if you want to donate a couple of dollars, you can also do that to help us continue production of this podcast. And you can do that at patreon.com/karate podcast. Also, find us on Facebook. We are at facebook.com/karate podcast. And with that said, let's enjoy this week's conversation.
But going back to what you were saying about the, there's always something new in martial arts that keeps you going. There's always something that you're thinking about in the classes. But it actually, when you think about why karate, it's like, we say, why not? Because it's really something that's been around for so many years and it's evolved, right? The sport itself, the art itself has evolved from day one, and it continues to evolve because of the practitioners, right? Because it's like a living document. It just keeps on growing. And so for that reason alone, karate is great for everyone, just because you can make it for what you want. You can go in there and really experience it the way you want to experience it and have it grow the way you want to grow, right? And then in turn around you, things will change too, where maybe you're adding something to the class, you're adding something to the program, and then others around you are learning from that and kind of experiencing it that way too.
And when sometimes, like I know it happened to you when you were a kid and you broke your leg, and for a while there you could do class like the other kids because obviously you could not walk on that leg. So they made you sit down and practice some technique with your bow staff, with the stick that you use for katas and also self-defense. And then I'm sure that, and you were just a kid, but I'm sure that at that point you realized, hey, hang on, there are some exercises here that I wasn't thinking about that I can do. And maybe your senseis helped you.
Well, I actually teach now that way, because
right?
I remember just how much you have to think about, or the different things that you can think about while you're on the ground working with a stick, where you're trying to actually use the bow the right way and not hit the floor.
And work your shoulders.
Yeah, work the shoulders and even just the core strength of sitting up and spinning something around you. And
having somebody show up and push down on it, and as you're sitting there, and it's really not comfortable, but you have to do it. And to this day, every week we start usually bow class by sitting on the floor and doing a bunch of exercises, and it kills your shoulders.
It's funny how that all plays out.
I know,
didn't
right?
even think about that being the broken leg part that actually got me there.
When I'm sitting there, and I could just imagine you being the kid sitting there doing the same thing out of necessity, but now we do it because experience has taught you that this is actually a very good way to become better at bow. And think about all the guys to whom something like that has happened, where they had to modify because of injury or illness or anything else. And then suddenly there you go. There's a new training technique. And now with the internet, obviously, people put videos of all kinds of techniques and things that they've learned or tricks that they've learned. And everyone can watch it and say, hey, that looks cool. How about we try that in our dojo, so that the sport evolves? But I would argue that it evolves faster now than it did 50, 60 years ago, before you had Sensei YouTube, as we call it,
yes.
Teaching people all kinds of different skills, tips, training techniques, and so on.
Yeah, well, before you would have to really, it would be only in the competition scene that you got that, because there was a lot of back in the day, there's a lot of just, I don't know what the right word is, but people didn't really share as much as they used to. You know, there was a lot more secrets, and a lot more of, no, only my people will learn this. You know, is that called an ego? I think.
Not in a good way.
That doesn't happen, though.
No.
But there is that. I was lucky enough that I had instructors along the way that were very accepting of new information. and weren't closed off to it. And guess what? Our schools got better because of it. Like I got asked by, so I got my butt handed to me in a competition, and I just kept going back in. And one of the coaches along the side was actually Sensei Jim Flood, and he looked at me. He goes, "Hey kid, you got a lot of heart. You want to learn how to fight?"
Yes, please.
Yes, Sensei. But he said, "Listen, I know you're an instructor. Talk to him, let him know. Like ask him if it's okay to come train with me on Sundays." And that was the thing. And I think that's something that might be missing too, is that whole, asking your instructor. Right. And it's not so much looking to for them to say no. It's them to have that chance to say yes. However, this is what you need to do, because they have that knowledge. And this is what Sensei John Marshall taught me too. Is he said, well, yes, you can go train with them, but what I want you to do is bring back one drill every week for our dojo.
Right.
And at the time, our dojo was known for competing and winning more of the forms and weapons.
Right.
And within a year or two, we became the fighting school, and we started losing the forms and weapons. And he went, wait a second, when did this happen? Right? So there's that sharing of knowledge, but also the growth around you from what you're doing. Right? And it's not just competition, it's everything that happens that way.
Because a true martial artist will always be, in my mind anyway, should always be willing to share information and knowledge.
I believe so. I mean, my whole belief on it is if I can share my knowledge to other people, then they're going to push me to go better, to go harder, to learn more.
Or someone else will share something with you later. I mean, it's all karma, right? If you put it in, you will get it back at some point.
Sure, but not only that, is that I believe that if you had that information first, you should always be a little bit better than other people at it. Otherwise, you're not practicing it.
Right.
Right?
And what I like too is that it keeps you humble. And this is, again, to me, a true martial artist is someone who, no matter what rank they've achieved, no matter how experienced they are at it, if some 7-year-old shows up and asks a question that makes you suddenly rethink the fundamentals of something you were doing, you should take it. You should have the humility and the wisdom to say, hang on, there's something in what you're saying that actually makes some sense. I'll have to think about this and consider it and possibly change the way I train and I teach everyone else because of something someone said who had not enough or had not achieved the grade, the level that I'd achieved. They were just this kid, but they had a good idea.
View, right?
Exactly.
And you know what? There's so many times that I've been bested by children, especially just through the years of teaching. But yeah, I'm not afraid to tell them because I want them to have that win, right? So I usually give a giggle. I'm like, well, Taik 1, Sensei 0.
They're like that too.
Oh, they love it.
But then they respect you more for it. I've always found this with children is that if you are and that's true for anybody who's teaching them, parents, teachers at school and so on, if you're honest with a child, they will respect you more for it than if because they know kids aren't dumb, right? If you tell them, you pretend you know the answer and you give them some kind of answer that's just really not real, and they know it. Eventually they'll find out and they'll say, hey, she lied to me. Why'd you do that? I don't like that. And then you don't trust you anymore. Exactly.
Say, right? Yeah, it's that level of trust that goes with teaching. And it's that level of trust that goes with martial arts too, right? In saying that there's something wrong with what we're doing or we need to change something. It's that evolving sport. It's that evolving art. And I think that's why it's evolved so much too, is that it's open-minded.
Right. It's like an open source software.
Just one way to do it.
That's right. It's the what is it? The Linux of martial arts. Right? It's the open source one versus the closed system. That there's some computer systems that nobody can change because the programming is secret, and others where they just expose all the code and say people have at it and tell us where the vulnerabilities are and where the good parts are and modify it and do whatever you want with it. These systems tend to be stronger, more resilient over time, and better than the ones where everyone's trying to keep the information proprietary and secret, saying, no, that's our code and we're not sharing it with anybody. And so you see that in all kinds of fields, not just martial arts or fitness or even computer codes. You see this everywhere. And that's a good thing. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you about karate is that people tend to think when they start, and they don't know if it's for them or not, and they don't know that they can be graceful enough to do it or coordinated enough to do it. But then they think about ahead to the sparring. And you see this, it happens a lot, and I want to say especially, unfortunately, especially for women, and I say unfortunately because I think women are very, very good fighters once they get going because they can be more strategic than men often. They don't just lead with their fists, they think, and they try to see patterns and things. They can be really, really good. but they say, okay, so I could do kata, I could do forms, I could do the physical exercise, but fighting, hitting someone, getting hit, no, that's not for me. What do you tell them?
Well, when we start our sparring, it's all a game of tag. You know, the way I explain it to all my students is if you go out to actually play a game of tag with someone and you slap them, you know, you're it. They're going to look at you. Are they going to play with you anymore? Probably not. Right? So there's a level of trust that has to go with the fact that, you know, you got to use control. It's a game of tag. It's just touch. But it is one of the best ways to learn your self-defense, to apply your katas and to apply the strength and speed and agility that you've learned through martial arts into what you're actually doing. And without seeing kicks and punches coming at you, I'm sorry, you can do kata all day long, but without having that coming at you and learning the distancing and the timing that goes with it to defending yourself, it's going to be really hard to defend yourself if you ever need it.
So in the movie, The Karate Kid, with the wax on, wax off and the painting and stuff, he actually learned the basics of the moves, but I mean, it's a movie, obviously, but that would never, it's a good movie. I enjoy it terribly, but this would not be enough to really know how to defend yourself. You have to be able to get used to see a punch coming at your face, a real punch, even if it's controlled and it's not going to hit very hard, but you have to be able to see it without flinching and then being able to react to it. And there's only sparring that can give you that.
Yeah, and sparring also works on your emotions.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because there is that level of understanding of control, but when you're first learning, you know, you're learning control too. So there's going to be times that you make mistakes.
And you're scared.
Yeah,
I mean, getting hit is not something.
You might get hit a little harder. You might
Right.
You might run into something where the other person is not meaning to hit you.
Yeah, accidents can happen. Yeah,
They happen,
They
but
do.
there's that understanding too, and being in check of your emotions. Because if you get angry, all you
Right.
see is red,
Right.
and you tend to make more mistakes. You know, and so this is something else that sparring teaches you too, is that, you know, the more in control you are of your emotions, and you go even further when you get into high level competition sparring. You can play with other people's emotions.
I have had episodes where I won a match because I could tell the other person was getting angry, and as that person was getting angrier, getting tighter, more predictable, I could see that person coming faster, and then I used that to my advantage. I forced myself to stay chill, stay relaxed, and just let the other person make the mistakes because, you know, she was getting angry and really wanted the points, and that forced her to make mistakes.
Yeah, and so
And
when we
that's really
first get
cool.
people into the sparring, it's about the drills, seeing things coming at you.
Right.
Not about the actual matches. We don't even
You don't start that
we don't
way.
even start them off with sparring matches. They need to learn how
Yes.
to apply their techniques and how to see them coming and the distancing that goes with it, right? The level of control that goes with it. And then from there you do sort of the randori back and forth kind of sparring
Right.
where you do like 3 techniques and you're blocking them and moving. Then the other guy throws 3 techniques. And
That's less scary.
that's a
by
little bit less
long
scary. It's
shot,
more
yeah.
controlled situation. And then from there, when you're ready, you know, you get to move into, okay, now let's see who can get the first point.
Right.
Right. And that's what it is. It becomes a game of tag.
And for me, I know, because I do doing the competition now, I really enjoy training with someone who's a lot better at sparring than I am, because that's how I get better. And this is what you also have to sometimes remind students who are, either they're intimidated or shy or scared of going to spar with someone who they can see, because they're not stupid. They can see the
Or
other
even
person.
they don't think they're worthy enough.
Right.
I
but
get
they
that
say,
one a lot, right?
how am I going to fight this guy? Look at him go. Well, that guy is going to bring his game down a little bit for you because he knows you're just starting. He's going to give you chances and help you, but they will teach you so much more than you could learn by fighting someone who's of exact same level as you. So I personally, I know I seek out all the good ones when I can, and I know for them it's less of a benefit than it is to me, but whenever I get the
that's
chance.
not true.
Well,
Because with sparring people that are not as good as you too, where they're working on their own thing, is that you can take it down a notch and start applying different techniques. And
or
working
experiment
on-
with things.
Yeah, experimenting with a little bit, and it becomes more of a fun game for you too.
Right.
So as long as you take it with the right mentality, it's beneficial for all.
Right.
For sure. It doesn't matter what level you're at.
I know it's made me a lot better. And so I always recommend it to other people. Yeah, go fight with that one because that person will help you a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. So sparring is indeed part of it. And you don't have to worry about, seeing yourself as a bruised fighter or anybody like that. You're not going to be Rocky Balboa with, no the eyes swollen shut. This will not happen. Everything is controlled and you move up. And then if you want to take it to competition later, well, then we'll talk.
Yeah, that's a different story.
There it gets different. But nobody has to do this to be a martial artist.
No. Yeah. And everyone that is a martial artist should try some sparring to be able to see what their moves are doing.
Well, that's where you test yourself.
That's the test.
That's with the same reason soldiers who train and train and train and train for years want to go do a tour for real, because they want to see if the skills that they learn, well, if they work. They want to test themselves, test their skills, and there's no other way to do it than to see live action.
Yep. And
so you have to do it. How about something slightly different? People, because I know, again, women will often, I get this fairly often, they are worried that being so physically active, doing a lot of push-ups, sometimes we also work with weights to work our muscles. They say, well, I don't want to get bulky. Yeah, I know. I laugh too. But
I laugh because if that was the case, I've
we'd
been
be
doing
huge.
this for 25 years. Yeah, I would be the biggest guy in the world. I wouldn't fit through that door.
Bigger than Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
That'd
be scary.
No, it promotes long, lean, fast muscles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, martial arts is speed and technique over power, right? Like, I mean, with your speed and technique, you will have power, but what I'm saying, over size.
Right.
Right? It's designed to train you against people that are bigger than you and to work against people that are bigger than you.
Right.
So, yeah, being fast, being precise, and being lean is what's going to make you,
but you do build muscles.
You build muscle, sure.
But you don't get big.
It's more of an internal strength too, though, right? Like karate is one of the few sports that really develops all of it. Upper body, lower body, and internal.
I believe my earlobes have gotten stronger.
They're huge. But like I've had other sports come in and try stuff with us. Football players,
like hockey players and stuff. Yeah.
Soccer players. And they could actually be pros coming in, where I've seen, and they're gassed after 15 minutes. And there's kids and women and adults and people all sorts that are doing better than them, right? And so it's humbling on their part because they're going, "What the heck? I've been training for so many years.
I'm an NHL player. What's going on?"
Yeah, and it's something that they don't understand. It's a lot of cardio. It's a full body workout.
Right.
Everything's engaged all the time. And you are not just building your internal strength, but your outer strength too. So it's the full package.
Right. And one thing I really enjoy is that there is no pushing on machines. I cannot stand going to a gym to those machines. I like when I travel, go to a hotel,
and then I'm going to put it down, and then
yes,
I'm going to lift
Arnold.
up some more. I'm going to put it over here.
Right, and then push on that thing and pull on that thing. And I go to those gyms and I go with the kids sometimes, and they're happy because they love the machines because it looks fun and it looks cool and it's something they want to try. So they climb all over these things. And Mom, what am I supposed to do with this? Actually, I have no idea. And they work the same muscle groups than we work, but without all this equipment. And so you can do your karate when you're practicing at home. You don't actually need much of anything. You don't need any equipment. If you have a mirror, that helps because you can see yourself. Some light weights sometimes to do some a few exercises, a little space to do your push-ups or burpees in. That's all you need.
And in class, we are very creative.
I know.
With how to use that body weight exercise. We have ways of making you do it. Yeah, but you're right. It's body weight exercise that is going to make you fit and strong.
And not injured.
Yeah, it's very hard to. I mean, it can happen if you don't do it properly.
Right.
But the chances are a lot less when you're using your body weight versus, say.
That's right. A machine, because you're not pushing so hard, or it doesn't push back down on you, or because sometimes it's a control and bringing down the weight that can be an issue. Now, something we talked about, the older person working up their skill, their level of fitness and working through injuries and things. What about the kid who is spectacularly healthy and active and ninja-like at 15, 18, 20, was now getting into his, say, just I'd pick an example completely at random, getting into his 30s, wants to continue training, does not want to get stopped completely by one of those injuries that ends everything. What is the secret to that? How do you deal with that?
Don't think about it.
Yeah, okay. Ignore it. It will go away.
Well, it's not so
That's
much
the Airplane 2 solution. You know that movie? Yeah, ignore it. Hope it goes away in the morning.
This one here though is you don't it's there. It's real. You know, and they're a little bit closer to the mind, but you know, if you fixate on something, I'm a big believer it's gonna happen.
Right.
So I fixate on the positive. There's a reason why I'm such a positive kind of guy.
It's useful.
It is very useful, and it's not that I'm lying to myself. I know what is happening, but maybe for that short minute, I'm lying to myself when I actually need to pull it out. I find now that I do get banged up and stuff in competition a little bit more. Mm-hmm. My heal time is not quite as quick as it used to be.
Don't bounce back quite so fast.
That's right. Mm-hmm. But experience, like we were talking about with the moves and stuff, experience of knowing how to heal myself and what to listen to is there. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm not going to push that bad pain. I'm going to let it heal, take the time because I have that experience to fall back on.
Right.
Right. You know, if I come back from a competition on a Sunday, so I go to competition Friday, Saturday, we travel back Sunday.
That's when it starts to hurt. It's on the way home.
Yeah, on the way home. And well, sometimes those rides are pretty tough on the body too nowadays. And it's the being smart, doing some active recovery, but nothing too crazy. You know, I was lifting weights to get some of my little bit of bulk on me because I needed to not just fight the guys that are in my weight class, but also once you win your weight class, you're up against the heavyweights.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so I needed a little bit more on me. Going in at 150 pounds, fighting guys that are 200 plus doesn't always work out the best. You hurt more afterwards.
Right.
Yes. But, you know, so beginning of the summer to the end of the summer was a lot of weights. And then once the tournament season really started picking up, I dropped all weights and did all body weight stuff because the recovery of after weights as well is longer. And I wanted to have my body for the next competition. And they're only a week apart. Right. You know, you compete Friday, Saturday, come back Sunday. You go back to the dojo to teach and train on Monday, but you might be doing some active recovery until, you know, you leave again Friday.
Right. And you have to train in between and apply the lessons you learned at the previous competition. So, yeah, you have to manage a lot. But for people who are thinking about this, because they are, even if they don't do martial arts and they're getting to that age range and they're thinking they do a lot of bicycle or they run, whatever it is that they do, you have to really start paying attention to your body is what you're saying. That's the key to everything, right?
It is, but not listening to it as in don't let it command you. You know, it's you have to listen to it, but yeah, you're still in charge. You know, mind over matter, that does work. And mind over body is also something that you can use.
It's a thing. It exists for real.
It exists.
How about stretching or doing things like that? Do you do more of that sort of thing now? Okay.
Yeah. I think since even since I was early 20s, yeah. Well, basically when I became in the adult division, started competing, officially in the adult division. We've been competing in the adult since we were 15. But it was like once I got up to that 20 range, yeah, my stretching routine doubled from what I was. Mm-hmm. So, you know, from like 1 minute to maybe 2 minutes.
After training, you mean?
Before competition, after competition, just kind of on a regular basis. And once I hit 25, it was like, okay, doubled from there.
Right.
So my warm-up also doubled. So the thing that took me 5-10 minutes now is taking me, you know, 10-15 minutes, 20 minutes to warm up to. Right. And now that I'm in my, you know, just hit 30, it's doubled again. And
let me tell you, just a preview, and once you hit 40, you have to, again, go harder on that because your body, again, will get tired and hurt more for longer times if you're not disciplined about doing that.
And that's what it is, a discipline on doing it. You know, I'm laughing at the younger guys now going, guys, we are supposed to be stretching. You want to stretch with me because I tell you what, when you get older, you're going to regret it. You know, what you put in now is what gets you there.
Did you listen when you were that age?
I would like to believe that I did.
That's not an answer.
Then yes.
You did.
Yes.
You listened. I mean, good for you.
I was a good student.
Right.
You know, I listened to my instructors and I did what they said. But I did know guys around me who it was like, oh, that guy, that Travis guy, he would come in and just kick above his head, straight up.
Cold.
Cold.
Just like that.
And I would be stretching, even
For an hour
as a
to get there.
teenager, I would have to stretch to get even my foot above my head.
Yeah.
And then, he would stop for a bit. He'd come back a few years later, boom, straight up, full splits. And you'd be like, what the heck? Have you been training, like, secretly? He's like, no.
No.
Some people are just built for it, and some people aren't. However, I still know guys now that have gone the distance with me and that are now also 30, 31, who used to never stretch. And now they're starting to stretch, going, I actually have to stretch now. But you look at that comparatively. I was always stretching. I have to stretch more. He wasn't stretching. He has to stretch more. Right. But we're both listening to our bodies to have that longevity in the sport.
You also have to pay attention to other things you're doing to yourself, like all the all-nighters. You pay more for them as you get older. They impact your performance more than they used to when you were younger. This may not have happened to you yet, but believe me, it will. The food that you eat. You have to be careful about that. And that's true for anything. And just even if you're not a particularly physically active person, if you don't watch out what you put into your body as you get older, it's going to come back and hit you, right? Getting enough sleep. Again, perhaps not something that in your 20s you think you need because you're invincible, but you get to a certain point. And I had 4 burnouts, and that's not a boast. That's a stupid thing I used to do over and over again, getting myself overly tired. Well, now I like my sleep. And now that I'm old enough that I don't have to care what other people think of what I do, there are nights when I'm in bed at 8:30. And these are the best ones, right? Woohoo, party until 8, take a shower, go to bed, and I'm done. You have to pay attention more to these things that your body needs. And it may not be the same for everyone, but you have to have that discipline to do things right. So that, stop laughing at me. You're laughing at me.
I have this feeling that you're teaching me right now.
Well, it's a lesson that somebody or something will teach you. Yes. And it's better if you can see it coming, or at least know it's coming, so that you can prepare yourself and slowly start making small changes that you should make, right?
See, everything that we just said now is going back to that we're all sharing in our experiences, right?
Yeah. Trust me, if you don't, it will hurt more. But yeah, so these are things that you have to at some point have more discipline to do, that you don't see. Even my daughter, who's 10, I see her at tournaments and I tell her, go stretch, go warm up. It drives me nuts. She goes for about 4 minutes. No problem performing. She goes and wins her fight, and then goes right back without stretching. And then she goes to hang out with her friends. And then an hour and a half later, she's back doing something else again, performing okay. I say, how'd you do that? I have to get in the zone. I have to stretch. I have to warm up. Then I have to warm down. I have to stretch again. And she doesn't. And that's something that eventually, as you get older, you have to start doing, even if you don't feel the need at first. And you have to. Yeah, so it's humbling, because you're thinking, no, I used to be able to do things without stretching, and now I have to stretch like an old person. Does that mean I'm an old person? Well, yeah, in a way it does. And you always joke that in karate years, you're actually young. You're older than a lot of us.
Even if I was a small dog,
right?
You say, 3 years to my one of martial arts years. That still puts me above 75 years old.
Oh dear.
That's sometimes how my body feels.
Right.
Plus the evolution of man walk when you get out of bed some days, depending on how much you train that week, or what you do to your body throughout it. And starts off pretty low to the ground, and then as you get closer to the door, fully erect. I
can go now.
Yeah. Oh.
There are mornings when I'm audibly. It's you can tell I'm getting up. Because it's not just the weight of my feet on the floor. It's whoops. I'll be fine in a minute. And,
Now, I will say this, is through my instructors' experiences, I have learned whether they taught it to me like straight up, or I just noticed from their bodies and how they handle themselves in these years now, I've learned what I should and shouldn't be doing to myself. I mean, back in the day, they were crazy awesome, but they were also, some of them were pretty crazy in what they thought, more is more. And and it was like, they would be training with lead pipes to build the strength in their arms and stuff.
Right.
But then they realized that a few of them had to have shoulder surgeries later. And
for some reason,
yeah, they passed that on to us. Don't do that. That would be silly. Don't do that. You don't have to do 1,000,000 kicks in a day, but you do have to train your kicks. So it's things like this that have been passed on, and I will continue to pass on my oopses and successes as well to my students.
And this brings it all the way back to who's karate for, really. Our student creed starts with, my goal is to become the best person I can be. And I'm sure that in many other karate dojos across this vast land, there are mottos and creeds that have wording very similar to that, because it really is about being the best, not just karate person you can be, but the best overall person you can be. And I would say that, to put it as succinctly as I can, karate is for anyone who is really keen to be the best person they can be.
And to share their progress with others.
Beautiful. Couldn't have said it better myself, even if I tried.